All right, welcome to No Apologies on Beck, and it is time to talk about money. So last, what was it, Monday, we spoke about what happened at the special session last week. And specifically, one of the hot button items was the vaccine mandate. So I went in depth in that bill, which is now law. The governor did sign it.
Right away, yep.
And so if you have an interest in that, watch Monday's show. What I wanted to talk about tonight was another, in my mind, really important item, and that was spending and tax relief. So those two things, allegedly, took place last week in the special session. And first up, let's talk about spending. As you may know, I'm not a big fan of how much we spend in North Dakota, especially in light of the fact that we have a supermajority of Republicans in both the House and in the Senate, and ostensibly in the governor's seat. You like my word ostensibly?
Ostensibly is perfectly placed.
Oh, and it is perfectly placed.
Right in
darn
context.
So, you know that we spent a record amount of money ever last session, which was January through April of 2021. We had a record budget. Now, we came back in for redistricting and also, I guess, for spending money, because through the Biden administration we have ARPA funds, America Recovery Plan, and to the tune of about $1 billion. So we came in to spend that money. Here's how we spent it. Pull up our first little graphic there, and this is put out by the North Dakota Legislative Council. It's fully accurate. I know that the print is quite small for you, but what this is going to be, and I'm going to go through some details here. This lays out what spending we did. And there are 3 bills in this that have spending that we passed in last week's special session. If you look in the very beginning, just kind of to get an overview, if you compare what we did in 2019, we spent $16.8 billion, which was a tremendous amount of money.
Wow. When
we came back in 2021, earlier this year, we spent just a little bit more than that. We had to beat our record because we love spending. It's $16.9 billion. Now, money is free because it's from the federal government. So
it's not free.
No, it's free, Lori.
No, it's not.
Yes, it's free. So we came back and we spent the hell out of that money. And we spent just about $893 million in this last week over the course of 4.5 days. So the total spending is now jacked up to a whopping almost $18 billion. It is phenomenal.
For one little itty-bitty state with 780,000 people.
Phenomenal, Lori.
Think about that. Think about how few people we have, and that's how much we're spending.
We are record setters.
Yes.
The spending increases over the last 10 to 15 years has been more than any other state when you look at it as a per capita amount. Wow. We are spending like there is no tomorrow.
Are we saving like there's no tomorrow?
No, we're only saving the amount that is required by the Constitution in the legacy fund. And even that, we're spending the interest and earnings from that fund instead of just putting the interest and earnings back into the fund.
It'd be okay to me if we were saving what we were spending, is what I'm implying. If we were at some point, I mean, I realize we are a very wealthy, well-to-do state with regard to the amount of money that's coming into the coffers.
Okay, so the voters wanted the legacy fund.
Right.
That's the saving. That's the rainy day, if you want to call it that. Outside of that, which the voters mandated, in my opinion, we should not be saving. We should be taxing less.
I see.
So if you spend less, yes, you're right, you'd have to save, unless you tax people less and there's less money coming in, which evens out your less spending. That's the way it ought to be.
I agree.
Now here's my big gripe, folks. We didn't have to spend this money last week. We could have spent it in January of 2023. And why would that be better? First off, let's take the governor's position. Why would that be worse? Why should we have spent it now? He is correct. The big push was because there's inflation. So if you wait till 2023, arguably the $1 billion loses 5% of its value. That's true. However, instead of rushing through, you could have much more deliberatively and judiciously spent the people's money, and you could have packaged it with permanent, substantive tax relief. That's what should have been done. Now, of this spending, not all of it was just bad spending. A lot of this, and it was intended for infrastructure, a lot of it, some of it, did go to infrastructure. Pull up the next graphic. We have here $135 million going to Department of Transportation for road and bridge projects. That's probably needed. I say probably because I'm sure we can find things in there that are not. But overall, probably good, but could just as well have been done next session. And also water infrastructure. There's a lot of important water infrastructure that needs to be done. And again, although it could have waited till January of 23, we did it now, and it's $75 million. The big problem I have when we're looking at good spending, right? I'm simplifying things, folks. Good spending, which we just showed you, versus bad spending, which I'm going to show you, is again, this was voted on, almost all of it in one bill, and a little bit more over the course of another 2 bills. If we had waited until next session, we could have had bill
individually
and
pick and
had the
choose.
legislators vote it, because what happened is the legislators voted on this because it had to pass.
Right.
There was inevitability to it. You got to pass it. Even though there's crap in here that if you had pulled it out separately wouldn't have passed, it was put in and it passed for that reason. All right, let's move on. Pull up that next one. Here we're looking at higher education. Now this isn't all of it by any means, but I pulled out some of the big ticket items. You got Bismarck State College at $38 million, University of North Dakota, $50 million, NDSU, $1.5 million, and NDSU again for $8 million. As I said, there's others. But my point here is that you have the NDUS, North Dakota University System. We have a system in which our student enrollment is declining, and yet we are applying tens of millions of dollars to building new or improving existing structures.
That is interesting, isn't it? That doesn't
and there's
compute.
less seats in the butt, or less butts in the seats, rather. There are people going online. This is not how we should be spending the money. Now, the thing that really gets me, next up here, pull up this next, yes, I am so triggered. Here we have cronyism, right? What do I mean by cronyism? I mean corporate welfare. I mean money going to private businesses. This should never happen in a legislature which has a supermajority of Republicans. And sadly, unfortunately, cronyism, corporate welfare is associated with Republicans, despite the fact that it is completely not in the Republican platform. But let's look through here. Department of Commerce, which really is the same thing as Department of Corporate Welfare. We've got Workforce Community Services Program, so we pay businesses to do these cutesy little things for $1 million. A community development planning grant, another $1 million there, $100,000 here. North Dakota Development Fund, that's to, quote, help entrepreneurs, end quote. That's for $5 million to help entrepreneurs.
But the whole concept of being an entrepreneur.
Right. The entrepreneurs that this is going to are the ones that forgot to go to class the day that they talked about how to raise your own capital. We've got $10 million for autonomous agriculture matching grants. So, hey, if you're a business and you want to develop a driverless tractor and your project is going to cost $3 million, well, you only need to do $1.5 million because the government is going to give you taxpayer dollars for the other half. And you've got a workforce development incentive program, technical skills. This is all corporate welfare. Space education and research, it's at UND. Now, why would I put this under corporate welfare? Because a fair amount of this money is going to the Grand Sky project, which is privately owned and privately profited upon. And it's really, it's corporate welfare. Industrial Commission, hydrogen development grants. Hey, you're a business, you want to do something with hydrogen? We are going to pay for you to do this project. Lastly, Bank of North Dakota Fuel Production Facility Incentive Program. It sounds so complicated, but it's not. What we are going to do for all the ethanol producers, that money that you borrowed to upgrade your facilities and what have you, we're going to pay half of your loan for you. That comes to $21 million. Final thing in this spending bill that we passed, Pull it up, the Industrial Commission, a pipeline infrastructure grant for $150 million. $150 million for the pipeline infrastructure grant. All right, that's my final graphic.
That is a pretty big grant.
It is, and it's final for a reason, Lori, because I'm making a point. $150 million for a gas pipeline to transport gas from the western part of the state to the eastern part of the state, right? Mm-hmm. And I believe I may have said it on this program. I don't know, because I'm saying it all over the place. The thing is, this is not what it costs, right? This is money to go to a company to develop a pipeline, or companies to develop a pipeline. In the words of a legislator on the floor in the House debating it, who said this is a fantastic thing, in his own words.
Let me guess, are they from the eastern part of the state? Just a guess.
Kind of middle section.
Really?
But
interesting.
He's also one that says that the Republican platform has no meaning for him. Said that the $150 million of your taxpayer money, now they're going to say it's not your taxpayer money, it's federal money. That's a crock because money is fungible. Look up the word. It means you can move it all around. If we weren't using it here, we could use it there to free up your taxpayer dollars. So in essence, it is your taxpayer dollars. $150 million, in his words, was a fraction of the total cost of the project, and we would not know what the total cost is going to be for quite some time. So we are supposed to put we're putting $150 million to a pipeline which the state is not going to own. A private company is going to own it. A private company is going to profit from it. We don't know how much additional money we're going to need to put in, but I can guarantee you this, once we've put this $150 million in, whatever the amount is next time, another $150 million, another $250 million, because it's the state, right?
Wow.
It's not your own money. The state is going to be more than happy to throw good money after bad, and they're going to say, what else can we do? We already put $150 million in. We can't just not complete it. We have to finish it. So just like Nancy Pelosi, you got to spend $150 million to figure out how much more you have to spend. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It seems like the definition of corporate welfare to me.
Yeah.
It's like the definition of it, like the poster child
okay.
for...
Here's the coup de grace.
Okay.
The coup de grace. The coup de grace. Pull up our House Bill 1515. This is the tax credit, and the Governor Burgum wanted this, and Representative Heinert brought it in. And it's, again, I hate to gripe about it because it is a tax credit, which I'm always in favor of for the most part. But here's what gets me. If you look closely, you'll see in red, it says about halfway down that the tax credit is $500, and it's crossed off, and in green letters it says $350. So this is what I want to talk about here. We spent $1 billion on top of the $17 billion we spent at the end of April here this year, and we couldn't get anything passed for tax relief for the citizens of North Dakota.
No Social Security relief or...
During the regular session. We finally did the Social Security this session.
Did it finally go? Thank the Lord.
Special session.
I was hoping it would.
That's the bright light.
Hadn't heard that. That's great.
So we did that. That's good. That's the $14 million worth there.
That's huge.
This is going to cost, I believe it is $211 million. When I say cost, I hate that terminology. It doesn't cost a damn thing. We're just going to not take taxpayers' dollars to that amount. Why in the world, you may ask, did it go from 500 to 350? And the reason, again, in the context that we've just spent $1 billion on top of $17 billion, we found out that the $500 that Governor Burgum wanted to do, according to the numbers, they thought was going to be about $214 million, but then realized it would apply to every taxpayer, not tax return, so it was going to cost $280 million. Folks, the legislature thought it was too expensive to give you a $500 tax credit, so they pared it down to $350.
That's because of joint filings, isn't it? Because
yes.
So that means...
So on one hand, it's good because you don't want to have you don't want to reword it so that there's a marriage penalty.
True.
But it blows me away. First off, $500, it's temporary for 2 years, and it's peanuts. and it's temporary. And it was still too much, so it had to be $350. This is one of the reasons I didn't like this bill, even at $500. This should have been done with the rest of the spending in January of 23, and we should be eliminating the income tax, or preferably eliminating the property tax, not what Senator Rich Wardner wants to do. He wants further buy-downs of the property tax. That has not worked well for you over these last 7 or 8 years. It has not worked well. We should not do more buy-downs, but we could, in the whole package of things, have done something more substantive and permanent for you, and we didn't do it. And that's why I walk away from the session saying, we did some good things, but just a little bit. It could have been so much better.
I like to say close, but no cigar.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
it's better than nothing. The other thing is people might say, well, $350 means a lot to some people, right?
Fair.
Except the people that it would mean the most to don't have $350 of tax liability for North Dakota income tax, so they're not going to see the $350. Right. That's not how it works. This is nothing. I joked with some of the legislators because I was frustrated and said, how maybe we could drop it to 150. What's the lowest amount we can drop to and still claim as Republicans that we gave tax relief? I don't know. 350 is pretty low. That might have been the low mark. All right. You can tell I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
If you are frustrated, if you want to make a difference, I want to tell you about something. You must pull up our little picture here. There is a campaign management seminar. It is going on, what is that, in 2 weeks, December 2nd and 3rd in Bismarck. You must contact them by Friday, in 2 days. If you want to make a difference, if you want to run for office, there are many legislative seats that are opening or are up for contention, if you will, because of redistricting, because of retirements. You have an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to be involved and to make a difference. If you want to see something much better than what I've just shown you tonight, much better than what I showed you on Monday night, you have the opportunity. If you aren't going to go to a campaign school and run for office, you should at least be involved in district politics. This is a watershed moment. The North Dakota GOP, Republican Party, over the course of the next 12 to 18 months is going to, the pattern will be set for the next 2 decades. And it's a matter of whether you are going to help make a difference in which direction it goes.
The shift is up to you. I like that. North Dakota Farm Bureau group too, right?
Yep.
Excellent, excellent group.